fucking. Oh, what? Oh, hey, yo, what's up, man? It's been a while. Well, you guys weren't sitting there long, I hope, because Anyway, I bet you're here because last time we spoke, we were supposed to talk a little bit more about vehicles and forces that we deal with or work alongside sometimes here in the Fenrisverse. So I bet you want to know how come we haven't done that yet. And so since a lot has been going on and me and the team have been busy, you've managed to catch me at a good time for us to sit down and talk about vehicles and forces and weapons and things that we use or things we come across in our universe. So why don't we just do that? We could start by talking about some folks that we teamed up with fairly recently, and that would be the city police, the Riot team. So yeah, let's talk about them. What is up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and welcome back to another review. This time, of course, we're looking at the Joytoy City Police or Riot Police. It says City Police on the packaging, so there's City Police for me, but I come up with a story to go with them. Yeah, it's been a long time, man. A lot of crap's been going on. I've been going through a lot of things to keep myself occupied so I don't lose my mind during all this quarantine nonsense. I actually recorded this audio once, but I have an AC unit up here, a new one, and it's loud, but it's a higher BTU unit. So I am re-recording the audio with it turned off while it's still cool up here in the man cave. So yeah, part of what has made this video take so long is trying to get that audio quality as good as I can get it for you. But anyway, I am including the SWAT dude in this from Crossfire in this review because he's police, and I want to keep everything together. And I don't want to leave out, something simple like that it doesn't really need to be in its own review. But yeah, I guess without further ado, let's jump into it. So I've been sitting on this for a long time, sitting on these guys for a long time. I've been really wanting to chat about this stuff. I've been a little bit, I don't know, holding back a bit because this is my hobby, and I don't want to, Oh, I hope you guys didn't forget Luis in the background, man. Probably the greatest figure ever made in anything ever of all time. I love that figure. Props to Hasbro for that. They knocked that shit out of the park. But yeah, I mean, this has been kind of my happy place, And if you share too much of your happy place, then it becomes everybody's happy place, and then you don't have it anymore, Or it's not as easy to get. But anyway, I'm gonna get really in depth with sculpt and paint right now. So you guys all know that my aesthetic when it comes to collecting 1/18 figures, especially when I jump back into G.I. Joe, has been the future tech look. That's why I started out with Rise of Cobra, and I feel like that's what they would probably look like as we get closer to the future, probably at the end of the G.I. Joe team's career. But yeah, this is the aesthetic I like, Future Soldier, and this is what I've gone for. Even when it came to the Pursuit of Cobra Duke, which is one of my favorite figures of all time, he still has that somewhat future tech kind of, Future Soldier kind of aesthetic. He doesn't have very much armor on like the other suit, but it shows he has a ton of skills. I mean, he's got a vest, he's got the knee pads, and that's it. And then all his gear is on his back. But you can tell that because he doesn't have a shit ton of armor, this is his skill level, being shown. It's a clue as to who he is. He's skilled. It's what I like when it comes to, yeah, I figured I'd show you that you could put his, his gun on his back as well. But it's what I dig when it comes to, my team. You can see all those elements on my guys as well. The pockets, the armor pieces, it's similar, a little bit of armor up top, not very much on the lower half, and you've got all the tactical equipment where it needs to be, and I love that aesthetic. It works for me, and it's what makes the Joytoy stuff so interesting to me. It works on multiple levels because you can use the gear that's on there that most people may not know, and kind of double it for stuff. You know what I mean? That's what makes Red work so well. The Marine. We codenamed him Red 1 and Blue 2. But anyway, you see there's all this gear on him that most people who haven't served or haven't worked in any type of law enforcement or martial capacity, they wouldn't know what a lot of this shit is. But it looks good. It's accurate to stuff that exists, but it's futuristic enough that you could use him more as something that exists in a future tech kind of setting. My Fenris verse is an alternate Earth, so, and it leans more to the future tech aesthetic that you've seen in other films, kind of like Fifth Element, actually the newer version of Blade Runner, the newer version of Total Recall. It's that kind of updated sci-fi look. And that's what I was going for. I mean, you see stuff all over the place. Like, I know that there's flares on there. There's the comms. He's got the little clip, which I'm going to talk about, more because it should be sideways like you see on mine. But anyway, there's just a lot of details on him that it's gear that exists right now. The armor and all that stuff, it all exists right now. But it's presented in a way that you could use it for both, So if you look at my designs and you look at what Joytoy is doing, you can kind of see there's similarities there because of where we're going with some of the stuff. It's not exactly the same, but it's just the vein, the same vein. And, that's what I dig. That's why I do what I do. But there is an area that I do not like on these figures, and I'm going to get it out the way. I absolutely have to get it out the way right away. It's the overspray. If you look closely at these guys, a lot of times they tend to get really sloppy with the the overspray. You can tell they airbrush a lot of these figures and they just wash over them, and it's too much. At times I'm like, you're making the character look really dirty when they don't need to look that dirty. It's not terrible, it's just not great. It's one of those things that I wish they would slow down on, calm down, be a little bit more subtle when it comes to the face. You can dirty up the clothes because they go through whatever. That's fine. I feel like you should let the play dirty up your figure if you want them to have that feel, because it'll be real. You know what I mean? I have Ryu figures and other characters wearing white that I played with enough that it made them look a little bit dirtier. But you can see it on there. It's like a lot of dirt. It works if you want him to just be kind of down and dirty, but his face, there's stuff, I mean, we could always go in and kind of clean up stuff, but the body parts are fine to be dirty because he's wearing a white shirt. But, like, look at his head. Like, that brings out the seam line on his head. It's not so bad on the back, but you can see it in between the sleeves. And I know they do it to bring out the detailing, but there's a way that you can do it where it doesn't come out dirty. Mine isn't terrible, but I've had some others where it looked bad, and I've seen others from Dem Guts that looked pretty bad, and they got to get that under control, because that's the one thing that kind of, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. And a big shout out to Dem Guts, because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't really be getting into all this. You are a certified legend, sir, and thank you for hipping me to this crazy ass line, actually getting me to jump into it, because I had been paying attention to the mechs, but you got me to get into the figures. But anyway, for most of this review, I'm going to be focusing on the captain, because they're all the same figure. The captain just has the most different details because he has a white shirt and whatnot. And he doesn't look anything like the SWAT guy, except they have similar... he has all the armor bits, but they have similar heads because there's an alternate head. But you'll see that even that head they have is the same as the SWAT dude from Crossfire, which is why I included him in here. But when you look at them side by side, you can see everything is the same. Everything's the same. It's just that the captain has leg armor and the regular officers don't. So detailing wise, it's dope. The black wash isn't so bad, or overspray isn't so bad on them because they were gray. So it kind of fits in better and it stands out more on the white shirt. But just looking at them, you can see the sculpt is identical. Even every piece of their gear is identical, except the officers do not have the leg armor. There's even extra weapons that I'll get into that make them more similar. I chose to outfit them a little bit differently so that there'll be some variety amongst my little force. You know what I mean? I didn't want them to look exactly the same. But also I wanted to put these two together so you could see the similar helmets. I mean, it's the same helmet with different paint. I'm probably going to swap that helmet with the SWAT guy's helmet with the extra one that comes with the chief. But yeah, besides that, nothing about them is the same other than they're both law enforcement. One is more modern, the other one is more in between. You know, it could be either or. But I just wanted to give you a close-up so you can see that the details are, you know, similar in some places and then very different in others. But they're both law enforcement, so I had to keep them involved. You know what I mean? But I love the details on these guys. They look really good. I don't really have any issues with, you know, paint detail and stuff like that. They just look good. The SWAT officers look, I'm sorry, the Riot officers or city policemen, they look really good. The paint is really well done. The sculpting is really sharp, so you get to see all the details on them. But like I said, these guys all are pretty much the same body, so I'm going to put more focus on just one of them because I don't really need to keep on switching to show you differences amongst the whole force. They're all the same figure, same sculpt, just slightly different, actually one different piece of gear. And if you choose to outfit them differently, you end up with a completely different look for your SWAT captain or your police captain or whatever. So yeah, there's that, and I like it like this. You know, this is why I picked them up, because I wanted the army build, and I've never had, outside of the Cobra troopers, the Cobra shock troopers, I mean, I've never really had any police in this scale. So these guys are perfect to be that force that either antagonizes the heroes or works alongside the heroes. So, you know, that's what I was going for with this set, and I'm really, really happy with it so far. Okay, so the setup could be like this. You could have the SWAT guy as your point man, and that could be your second, or just ignore him, point man. You have your backup. You have your breacher. He has got a shotgun, so he can shoot the bolts off the door, you know, or the hinges off the door. Then you've got your backup. You can switch those two. Of course, you have your sniper. Then you have your captain. The sniper, of course, would be somewhere far off, posted up, you know, so that if shit gets hairy, you've got that extra set of eyes far away that could take the gun or the shooter or whatever out at a moment's notice. Now, if you've been with me for a long time, you know I'm a Rainbow Six dork. I love Tom Clancy stuff, like original Tom Clancy stuff. It got kind of stupid in the recent years because they use his name, but they don't really use the tactics and the authenticity of some of what he wrote. But I like having a squad. This is one of the things that drew me to Joytoy even further, is that they often release their units and they all have the functions, you know, at least 3 of the functions are there, and then the rest are up to you if you want to add them. They always have a point man, a second, and a sniper, always. And in most of the 3-packs, that's how they do. Sometimes they'll add a shield in there, so your point man has a shield, you know what I mean? So it's kind of dope. You've got your point, you've got your breacher, and then you've got, you know, whatever the third guy would be, which is mostly snipers, which I want them to get a little bit more creative with that third person. You know what I mean? Give us another MOS that's not the usual, you know? Okay, so pardon the humming in the background if it bugs anybody. It's hot as balls, so I figured, you know what, it's time to have the AC unit on. So we are going to take a little closer look real quick at the Crossfire SWAT officer. He's similar to these guys, but, you know, because of the similarities, I put him in the video, but he's not, I mean, he doesn't have any of the details that they have that makes them uniform. So I figure, you know what, let's talk about him by himself. He's a well-done figure. He's plain in comparison to them because of the fact that he is set in the Crossfire universe, which is in relatively modern times. So his gear is pretty much the gear that modern SWAT uses. There's no Tom Clancy angle. There's no, you know, fancy, you know, somewhat futuristic Luc Besson style tech. Nah, it's just he is what he is, and I like it. I like it. It looks good. It works, and he works well enough to be just like a separate unit from like, you know, Rainbow Six had the units of the world take operatives and bring them to, you know, the Rainbow team, and you see from his gear, he looks like he could be like American special, you know, American SWAT, and team up with, you know, this police unit that I use as a representative of the international police department. Now he comes with a bunch of accessories. I will get to those in the accessories portion. I'm spending a lot of time on what the figures themselves look like because, you know, that's what's missing from a lot of the coverage that's on YouTube right now of these Joytoy figures. People tell you they have the figure, but not really what it does and why it's special and why it's worth getting. It's just another thing to buy, you know what I mean? But you can see he's got the standard vest. The SWAT logo is really sharp. The little dots that are the snaps for his, you know, pouches and such, they're really well painted. No slop, nothing. Everything's crisp and clear. Every little detail is super easy to recognize and understand, and got to give him props for that because it's what I've wanted from G.I. Joe for years. His pistol, it's kind of a future pistol, kind of reminds me of one of the ones from Ghost Recon, and I'm gonna go into detail with that later on. Right now I'm just giving you an idea so you can see what it is. Clearly it's kind of like maybe a SIG, something like that, but it's got the little red dot sight on the bottom, you know, or that could be a flashlight. It depends. It's very thin, so, you know, I still chalk it up to, you know, it being a slightly on the futuristic side. But, you know, I just love the details, man. They really went nuts with the details, and even though it's a simplistic figure overall and it's very real world, I mean, down to the soles of his shoes, all the detail is there, and I dig it. It looks great. You know, it's stuff we got with our Joes, but not to this level. You know what I mean? Not to this level. So, yeah, I mean, he looks great from head to toe. The paint, there's no overspray, so he's very clean. So I get to supply the dirt, and I love it. And then we're gonna go into, I'll show you this guy one more time so you can see his whole shtick. Lots of great detail. Now let me show you his pistol. I'm gonna show it to you again when we get into the accessory section, but let me show you this one more real quick before we get into, you know, accessories proper. Well, let's take a look. Let's get up close on this gun. Look at that. It's a nice little beef eater. Now the guard is cracked because the guard wasn't big enough, or the slot for your fingers wasn't large enough to put their fingers through, which kind of sucked. So forcing his finger in there broke that or cracked it, but whatever, it's not that bad. I planned on actually cutting the guard out altogether because it's easier when if they're not going to make the guard big enough for the fingers, then it's easier for me to just cut the guard out. And I've done that with others. A lot of the really cool G.I. Joe guns did that, like this wonderful pistol from Rise of Cobra. You saw this with like most of the Rise of Cobra figures. So good. So good. I mean, like, it's not very much to want. And the handle's nice and thick, so you can use it with your Joes. It's not necessarily the best handle for Joytoy figures, but the Joytoy figures have pretty decent sized hands and a decent sized grip, so for the most part you can use this for them. But anyway, that is his pistol, and quick look at him. Police on his chest looks really well done. I mean, like, they really did the damn thing here. The clips look good. The little band that holds the bungee band that holds the clips in place on his vest look good. Belt, comms over his shoulder, it's all good, man. The med kit, his explosives, breach charges, all that shit, it all looks really good. I really like the heavy armor that he has on his legs, because they are the Riot police, the city police Riot Force, essentially. That's pretty nice. We had these when I worked in the prison. So, yeah, it was nice. It was very nice. So, anyway, let us move on to accessories. All right. So, we're going to talk more about the accessories. There's great accessories here. I have no issues with these accessories. I'm actually very impressed with what they've chosen to give us because it all works. So you get an extra set of, an extra head for your SWAT captain, which is pretty dope. I'm holding it up too far away. Let's get up close on this stuff. And you see it's identical to the others, no extra anything. I might even switch this head with the SWAT team dude in the background that I showed you earlier, up over here. But it's just a basic sculpt, just like the other guys. Very nice. Very simple. Then he comes with a bunch of gesturing hands. You know, you have to have your lead with gesturing hands. So you have a pointing hand. You know what? I'm going to try something. Okay, so you've got your gesturing hands. You've got a pointing hand. I like this. Let me switch which direction we hold this so you can see it pointing. Get an idea. Let's get up a little closer. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Stop. Get back over there. There you are. See that? Pretty nice. A lot of flash, but still pretty nice. Pretty well detailed. The back of the hand looks really good. So you can tell it goes to the chief or the captain. Very well done. We've got the another ooh, doing too much, man. It's like, see my power. You know, you two move out. Okay, now you're just fucking with me. There you go. See that? Pretty nice, pretty detailed. The gloves look really leathery. It's like he just put his finger in his ass and is smelling it. Just kidding. But you can see though, these are the gesturing hands for move out. You can have him, you know, saluting. Put them up near his head, like so. That doesn't look right. There you go. But yeah, they look pretty good. Then you have the another pointing, or just, you know, you could put it at his eyes. You know, he's got eyes on something. Where are we? There we are. So you could have this point at, you know what I mean? Pointing at something, or you could put them towards his eyes to gesture that he sees something. So there's that. Sorry, I'm getting used to this because I've never used my tweezers in front of the camera. But I like that. And then there's the like counting hand for, like, you know, he's got 4. You got eyes on 4. Which is pretty nice. Now this one may have come from a different set, but I think this is the only set I have with these gloves. So let me make sure of that while I'm saying that. Yeah, that's definitely the captain. I think the others you can switch. They work with the other guys because they don't have the knuckle dusters on them like he has. But it's pretty nice, right? I like that. Then you have a bunch of like standard hands, like for this is the relaxed hand. Come on. This is the relaxed hand, you know, the support hand, so you can put this behind, or, you know, holding onto the end of a gun or resting the gun in there. That's cool. That can work for anybody. And it definitely doesn't have the same knuckle dusters as they do. Then you have trying to get eaten up by the trans-dimensional carpet. Then we have the 2 sets of holding things hands. And these could be for anybody. So it's nice that you have all these options. That's just the hands. Then of course you have all the different rifles that you've been looking at right here, and the sniper rifle, which, you know, depending on how you feel like playing, you can do that, but like everybody can have a assault rifle. Kind of looks like an MP5-ish something, or something in that, an HK5 or an MP5 with the buttstock. I don't know what that is on the edge. I think that's dust. Yeah, it was dust. But it looks good, right? Looks real good. The buttstock is stuck out. It does not fold up. So you've got 5 of those in total, which is nice. Then you've got 2 of these. It's a shotgun, very nice. I forgot the specific kind, the name of it. I mentioned it in the Blue Falcon Agent Blue video. But it's very nice. You know, you've got the scope on the top, you've got the control handle in the front. It's very nice. And then you've got the standard variant with the rail, but it doesn't have anything else attached to it, really. It's very nice. Perfect for your breacher. And then, of course, I'll use the sniper rifle, dude. Let me get the sniper rifle out of his hands. And he holds it really well because he has the perfect hands for it. A long pointing finger. And he's got the support hand perfectly. But let's get out this thing, Bob. And there you go. Sniper rifle. It's beautiful. The bipod actually folds up. It's perfect. And this is like the big anti-particle rifles. I like that. Or anti-particle. Jesus, why did I just say that? Anti-material rifle. Jesus Christ. Whew, tired. This heat is speaking for me. But you can see the bolt. You see the chamber. You can see the clip. Everything is pretty sharply done, you know? Really well done. I like it a lot. And then there is the standard rifle that they all come with, which is pretty nice. Very future tech. It's the same as the one that comes with Fox Hunter, which is beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. Get up closer and look at this. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. And it's not too thin either. It has the right kind of like thickness to it, you know? So it fits in their holster with no problems. And then, of course, there are little things because, you know, most of their gear is removable. So give me just a second, and I'm not going to remove the gear, but we're just going to get close up on the gear again, just so you know what parts I'm talking about. So if you happen to get these guys, usually in the box they come with their gear on. I have read reports of people saying that some of theirs came with all their gear off, you know, but I think in these sets, when they're in the case, which I'm going to get to in a sec, they come with the gear on. So let's see. He has the most gear, so we'll use him from head to toe. So the shin guards come off, the thigh guards, and, you know, the holster, that comes off. This belt is a separate piece. You can pull that off. The vest is also a separate piece. Now, they don't have the shoulder armor that some of the older, or a few of the older releases, like the Special Group and the Russian Spetsnaz team, as well as Red and Blue. They have shoulder armor, and but these guys don't. They didn't even come with optional armor for that. So yeah, all that's removable. Like I said, the head, it's a separate head with the helmet attached to it, so you don't get to have like a separate special helmet for that. That's removable. And then my favorite thing, and I've talked about this before, and I'm just going to zoom in on them because we get a lot. Actually, before I do that, let me talk about the ones that come with our friend over here, the SWAT team dude. You get a baton, which is not a bad little thing. It's kind of generic. It's kind of little, but it's like a baton. I think it's a shock wand. I could be wrong, but it's in my universe. It's a shock wand, and then you get extra holding things hands. One is a standard grip holding things hand, and then the other is the gun hand with the trigger finger. So that's pretty nice. And then let's get to the part that I was talking about before. Oh, also he has a very nice rifle. I'm just gonna put that up to the screen so you can see that. Looks like an M16 or maybe an M4. Probably an probably an M4. It's pretty nice. And then he has his pistol, which, as I showed you earlier, is along the lines of the Future Tech pistol that the Fox Hunter with the hat came with. It's nice. It's not a bad sculpt. It's not a bad detail. Nothing. It's really well done. It's just kind of thin. See that? Really thin. But it's a well done sculpt. I like it. It works for what we need it for. Okay, and now I can talk about the part that I like. The thing that kind of sets them apart when you think about it quality-wise, because a lot of you are some meat-handed motherfuckers when it comes to handling these figures. You buy an import figure, you have to be a little bit more careful with how you handle them at first, because the heat from your hands will soften some of the plastic, but typically you want to calm down with how you how you force them. They're not Hasbro. They're not made out of the same kind of ABS that domestic companies typically use. So you always have to look out and be careful about that. But the best thing, one of the best parts about this, it makes me so happy because it's one of those things that, like, I've had only one figure break on me, right? And as soon as he broke, I was like, oh shit, I can do this. Much like Figma. Right? And I'm going to grab a Figma real quick to show you. They use a joint system for the construction of their figures. So, as you can see here with Saitama, and let's move up so you can see more of him. Looking all glazed over and shit. There we go. I get that higher and straight. There we are. You can see that, like, the joints, they sculpt all the individual parts, right? Then they have a specific shaped hole, or, peg hole for a specific shaped peg. So this peg connects all the joints, right? Same thing for Joytoy. I'll use the elbow joint. I think this was the standard elbow joint. We put Saitama's arm back on. And I'm using the Captain because the Captain is the best, like, the most different one of the bunch next to the SWAT dude. So it makes it a little easier for me to show you. Plus his parts are, he has white up top and gray and black below. So it's easier to see all that stuff. But, we'll use, this is one of the Captain's elbow joints. It's a replacement elbow joint. Essentially, you just pull it out of the upper arm and the lower arm, like the wrist or forearm, and then, you just replace it if it breaks. Now, with the Chinese team, the PLA 3-pack, I had one of them break at the ankle, and I'll show you those parts so you can see what I'm talking about. See, this was the ankle. And it just broke. It was stuck in the package. I froze him, and then I took him out to move him, and it just popped off. But luckily, you are given an extra ankle. So it was easy to fix. And I'm pretty sure that's the ankle. Could be a little off. No, that is the ankle. Yeah, you're given this extra ankle piece. And it works. It helps really well. Immediately fixes what's wrong. You have double jointed knees, and you have extra knee parts. Now, the only problem with these knee joints is that right there at the tip of the knee joint, that's where the knee pads go. Oftentimes you have to wrestle those knee pads off. So you're going to have to boil the shit out of the broken one if this breaks, and then pull off the knee pad and then put a little dab of glue right there and then put it right back on. You always want to make sure it's a tiny little bit of glue because you don't want it to get into those crevices for the joints. You know, that would really suck. But it's beautiful, man, because you feel like you get your money's worth, you know? You're never ever looking like, how do I fix my figure? You know, I'm going to have to call Joytoy for a new part. I mean, now there have been issues with certain figures before they gave us replacement parts for things like the Devil's Fifth or Hell's Fifth 3-pack. They the shield, it's like really soft. It's got this weird soft, I can find the joint, but it's not relevant for this, but it had a soft joint, so it was hard to get them to hold that. And they started packing them with replacement joints. I had mine taped directly to the package, which is dope. It was, you know, it's last minute, but it's dope that they actually gave a shit enough to make sure they give us something to fix where they went wrong. And it's another thing I give them props for. A lot of import companies do this. I've told you about many of my dealings with Good Smile and all their amazing figures. Good Smile, Max Factory, it's all the same. They're related. The last thing is this wonderful container. Now these containers are dope because at first I think I had one figure that came with one of those, and let me switch this out because I want to show you what makes it awesome. So this is the container itself. Typically it'll have the little insert, tells you what you got. This insert itself will just show you your figure. Oh cool, so now you can see what he looks like without all the gear on. And it shows you, you know, some things, and some of the English on here, or English, is kind of funny, but you know, English is not the first language of the country that this comes from, which is China, so you know, it's not that bad. It may even be Hong Kong, right? Joytoy Technology, it's Beijing, China, so there's that. So anyway, you just get a nice idea. You can see Riot Police Force, City Police, which is the line. I like them because you could use them in your modern displays and modern, you know, G.I. Joe shit. And you can use them in your future stuff because they've got just enough gear to look like futuristic cops. But this is the thing I love. So, okay. So, each of these come with a little black piece on the top. I'll use the one I was putting away. Actually, I have another one for another line right back here. This is from the special group. You see how the top is all rough, looking like gravel? Well, the one that came with the Chief is not tough. It looks like the top of like a manhole cover, or like a radioactive symbol for like some kind of installation where they work with radioactive materials, you know? I don't know why they would come with it, but I guess it represents places you might find them. Anyway, what's dope is you have a little peg here for your character to stand up like you've seen him so far in this review. I'm going to eventually just go through and decide who gets what peg, but so you get the stand, right? So normally when you get them in the package, this is how it is, right? The black piece is on top. The older ones don't have this secondary piece down here because there is a method to the madness for that. But when you get them in the pack, it would be like this. Your City Police, you know, thing, insert is in there, your figure is in there, everything is in here like this, right? But once you open them up, you get all the stuff out, you recognize that you still have that portion, right? You can flip this upside down, put them back in there, and then the top, say you have, you know, guns or something you want to store with that figure, you can put them in the top, which is so dope, so you can have them on display. Now, I'm not going to display them like this because this is kind of counterproductive to the way I collect. I play with my figures. I am damn sure going to use the stand part so I can have them standing up. But what I'm going to do with these, get back on there. What I'm going to do with these containers, I've already started doing it because me and my son played a quick mission a couple days back where Red brought in Balalaika, which is one of our new villains from this universe, which is I think her name was Kwai. So as you can see, she's got handcuffs on. So Red is part of my the IPD. It's the interdimensional, or IDPD. It's the interdimensional police unit. They're kind of like time cops, except they jump through the multiverse. And so she was traveling. He caught her and stopped her, took all her gear away. She doesn't have any of the guns you can actually use. You can see she still has some of her gear, but you can't pull that stuff all off. And I'm using this as containment. So when they get caught, yeah, you're confined to this, you know what I mean? And it looks the part, you know what I mean? So I can have them in a base set up that way. But when I have them on my shelf, I can have them, you know, like this. And I love it. It feels good. It looks fine. You can see the character. They're pretty protected. I mean, you don't want to have them directly in sunlight because you don't want to make the stuff brittle. You want it to still survive, so you can have them up on your shelf. Make sure they're not directly, you know, getting baked in the damn sun and shit. But, you know, it's just cool that they give you that option. And I love the fact that the top has that little, you know, holding area so that you can put your weapons and stuff in there. It's such a smart idea. This is what you're paying for. This is why this shit costs $30, and this is why it's awesome. And say you don't want to use any of that, you can take them off, and you can use that lip piece and just put the whole thing on top of it. You know, say you don't care about any of this stuff. You can fill one of these up with all your extra pieces and just do it like that. It's pretty nice, you know, pretty nice. So I'm impressed with that. It's a lot of accessories. Here, get out of here. It's not your review. Your review's coming. Well, nice, decent amount of accessories. The figures look great. And now it's time to talk about their articulation. Okay, so articulation, it's really simple. He has all the points that G.I. Joe has, just he has a better range of motion. This is one of those things that I dig because, you know, I've complained about the way that some of these figures cannot shoulder their rifles correctly. And that's annoying when you're trying to set up a cool scene and you want them to look like they're doing what they're supposed to do, and they just can't do it, you know? You can see from the guys in the background, everyone can look down the sights, everyone's doing what they need to do. They've got very good range of motion in their shoulders. Arms can go up, like lateral, that much. Of course, you can go up and down. You can, you know, up in front, out to the back. You can go all the way around, but we don't need to. Elbows bend more than 90 degrees, which is what you need. This is one of the points of contention I have with modern Joes. Like myself, as dope as this figure is, that's as much as I can do, which, I'm sorry, let me use the same arm. That's as much as I can do, so he can hold my weapons better than I can, you know, which sucks. Now with Marauders, I will show you a Marauders figure. Even they have that slight limitation, but if you, depending on where you put the arm, you can get that extra. So we'll move them back a little bit so you can see all what I'm talking about. You see it? So standard in front like this, that's as far as it goes. But if you look closely at your Marauders, there's a round lip right there. So if you tilt the arm forward a little bit and then twist the whole arm, so twist the whole arm up, tilt it forward just a little bit at the elbow so you can get the bend in that lip, you get that extra so that it puts that edge over your Joes and you end up in the same territory as Joytoy, which is dope. So it's another thing that puts them above the Joes. You can still compensate with the hidden, that extra wrist joint right here, but again, it's limited in comparison to the Joytoy one because the Joytoy have bigger wrists in general. So you know, it's not that the Joes completely suck, it's just that there's some stuff that they've been doing the same way for the last 40 years, 30 some odd years, 40 years, and they're just not changing it. So one hand, always, you twist at the wrist, with the twist of that wrist, you can bend all the way in, all the way out. And then remember, the hands are replaceable. You do have the swivel at the shoulder, and you have the swivel at the elbow. The other hand, you always have the up and down, so he can hold his gun properly. He can actually reach for the gun because of the more bend, so you can get him reaching. And this is all stuff that looks just better. And then the shoulder joint has a little bit more inward than your Joe's. So like if you want him to look like he's holding his belt as he reaches for his, you know, his gun, that looks cool. And these are the cops that actually fight villains, not the ones that shoot civilians. You know what I mean? So I'm just putting that out there. He does have, they're mostly ball joints in the torso, so you have a lot of movement. The belt at the lower torso does interrupt some of it, but you can push the belt down. What will interrupt your movement at the torso are all these packs in the back and stuff. But I mean, you don't really need to do that much. See that? It's got a lot of movement. And there's more movement at the upper torso, but you don't need it when you have this on. And you won't be able to utilize it while you have this on. Just like any 1/18 scale figure. Also the neck. So I've heard people say they're cool with the necks, nothing's wrong with the necks. You move the neck around enough and it just comes off. It's not a very deep recess in there for this neck, and then the lip in here is not big enough. It's really non-existent. So it's a deep hole, just not a very, I don't know, a very functional lip to hold everything in place. So sometimes when you're moving the head, like, yeah, you get a lot of range because of that neck and the head working in unison. But like, you know, mostly you don't, you know, a lot of it is at the top of the head. Sometimes when you're making them tilt to the side, it works really well. So what I do is I do one of two things. Either I'll put some glue in there, work the joint around so it makes the peg a lot thicker so that it fills up the inside of that peg hole. And that way it won't come off as easily. You have more friction and, you know, it's more secure. Or I just glue the neck piece at the base of the neck. I put some glue in there or some glue around the edge here, and then just push that all the way down, make sure it's tight, and then I just move the heads over here. I've been doing this we've been working with that kind of articulation for 30 some odd years with Joe's. It's not that big of a deal. Everybody's not going to be sniping prone. If you want to make them snipe prone, you could just pull this neck out all together, cut that peg out altogether, get a Figma joint or one of these extra joints that you have, and just make a different neck for them so they could actually look all the way up front, you know. But as you can see, he can't look all the way up even without a helmet. Even when I put his head, the back of his head over his collar, he cannot look all the way forward, so you won't be able to make him snipe, if that's what you're thinking of. You won't be able to make him Superman perfectly, but you know, then you also have this awesome torso, so you can kind of fake it, you know. So we've done the torso. It can go everywhere. You can twist, no problem. You can do 360 degrees, but he's not a robot, so he shouldn't need to. Now, another point of contention that I hear from people is the crotch. They say, oh, they can't sit down. Oh my God, they just can't. With all the gear, that makes it hard, but yeah, he's sitting. So it's all about how you use them. I've been seeing these posts in some of the Joytoy groups and stuff where people are saying, oh, they just can't do anything. I can't make them kneel. You have to know how to use the joints that you have. So the shape you need, you don't want to use both knee joints. You just want to use the bottom. So hold it in place, bend it. There you go. There you go. That simple. It's not magic. It's just playing with your toys. You know what I'm saying? Like if you play with them long enough, you learn all this stuff. I mean, isn't that the goal anyway? So yeah, kneeling is easy. It's not hard to do. You don't need to chop up their crotches, although some of the figures come with a secondary set of crotches. This set does not come with a secondary set of crotches. Other figures also are sculpted with more range in their the crotch area, and I'll show you that with the SWAT team dude, because he has a, like, you can see him side by side. He's bigger and he has a thinner crotch area. So for him, it's even easier to just bloop, leg up, look at that, and then just bend the leg where you needed to bend it from, and just, he's kneeling. So like, yeah, don't automatically follow what you see in the groups, because some of those guys collect so they can show it off. They don't collect because they actually do anything with that shit when they're not online. You know, they want to take pictures to show off that they bought all of the shit. They're not actually showing you how to utilize what's in the package. You know what I'm saying? And some of them are waiting for you to show them. So, you know, do your own thing, explore how these things work, and then move forward, because then you'll see how everything works. But the articulation is the same for both of them. With him, he has more range of motion at the waist, because you see all the, ooh, I'll be stroking. Oh, I'll be stroking. Anyway, he's got more range at the waist, and you can use his upper torso because nothing is in the way. See, there's no belts or anything to bump up against like it was with him. So you get a little bit more, and like I told you, thinner crotch, so he can easily kick his leg up higher, and it makes it easier for you to have him sit down if you want him to sit down. See, it's not very hard. He sits easy, you know. So keep that stuff in mind as you decide to get one of these two sets, any of the sets really. This is something to keep in mind, because the truth is the truth. I'm showing it to you on screen, so I'm not talking shit just to talk shit. I'm telling you the truth, because that's the whole point. A lot of times you see some reviews where people just don't really get it, so legs a little bit lower than the SWAT dude, but like you can also fake it and get it a little bit higher because of the the ball joint in his lower waist, so you can have him stomp higher. See that? And all I did was, instead of just moving the leg up alone and having his torso be straight, I bent his torso forward a little bit, and boom, there's the kick. Ooh. If you wanted him to kick from the side, like karate or kung fu style or martial arts style, he can still do that, and it looks good too. Although I don't see him as that kind of captain, but that kind of cop. But if you needed to kick somebody in the face, he could do it. Bam! And it's pretty decent range, you know what I mean? I've heard all kinds of things about people saying they can't kick, and maybe it's the sets. Maybe those corny Marine Corps sets are limited, but none of mine are. I can do this with almost all of them. I don't know, maybe it's just how I pose stuff and what I know to do with my figures. So you can see the legs, really well done articulation. There's a thigh swivel, so if you twist it a little bit, you get that twist. Most of the time it'll just twist on the ball joint at the hip, as you can see right here. See that? But pretty decent range. The one thing I will say you need to look out for, and you might need to put some glue, is if you move their legs around a lot, because they use really smooth plastic for the dumbbell inside the leg at the ball joint, they'll get slack and fall off sometimes while you're doing things. Marauders has the same problem. But yeah, double jointed knee bends that much on all the figures. Toe point, twist, pivot, very nice. And we've got articulation at the toes. That's another one that I've seen people say they just can't move. Work them, that's all. Work them, heat them up, boil the foot first, and then they'll move, even on red and blue. And then that's it, really. So like, there's nothing. You want him to use his earpiece. There's not really much that you would want them to do that they cannot do. He can use his earpiece. If you want it to be on the other side, you want to pretend it's on the other side, even though you can see the things here. I mean, sometimes people do that where they have it coil over their shoulder and around on the other ear because it's easier for them. Maybe they're predominantly, you know, right or left-handed, and they'll switch it that way. But look at that. So yeah, there's really nothing that you would want him to do that he can't do. And for that, I'm grateful, because it makes it easy for me to just have fun with these figures, you know? So, yeah, that's the articulation. They are totally worthwhile in that department. So far, nothing has been lacking. And I think that, yeah, most of you guys who are into Joes and shit would be really happy to have figures with this level of articulation. Yeah, that's really it as far as the articulation goes. All right, and let's compare. So, yeah, I'm using my mic for some of these parts, so you'll hear a difference with the AC down or off. Anyway, let's compare. So you're seeing him next to other Joytoy figures, or them next to other Joytoy figures, and yeah, they fit in. They're almost the same height, with the other dude, the SWAT dude, being a little bit bigger, but I love the height. It works. And more comparisons here. They are compared to Hasbro and Marauders. As you can see, they're right in line with most of the Joes, and they're just slightly, when you move over to the Crossfire side with the SWAT dude, they're slightly over to the, or in line with Marauders, and a Joe that's using Marauders' lower legs. So Marauders run a little bit taller than your average Joes, modern Joes, and they're a lot taller than your vintage Joes, but you can see they fit in line. And I'm not one of those people who is so hardcore about like them having to all be exactly the same fucking size. That's stupid. People come in different sizes, shapes, you know, heights, and I like that variety. But I mean, here, for those of you who need that, it's pretty damn close. You don't really have to worry about them deviating too far from what you already have established. So they work. And now for the bottom line. I love this part. It's always my favorite part. So I've shown you these guys doing just about everything. I've shown you every aspect about them. I wasn't exactly happy with the previous review I did of the blue. So going back, or going forward, I'm going to be doing it more like this. Since it's a team, you got a really in-depth look at all of what the team has to offer. I mean, essentially it's 5 of the same figure with slight variations in paint and in gear, but they're a quality little team. In my universe, I came up with the idea of having an international police department, or police force, because in the Fenris verse there are these giant domed quadrants of the earth that are kind of separated, and these guys have a nice near future kind of look, so they fit perfectly in what I want them to do. I personally was surprised that I like them as much as I do, because they are more on the plain side in comparison to the other more futuristic Joytoy characters, but they're dope, you know, and just as they are. Forget my perspective, they're dope. Of course, I have to have him photobomb or bomb the review, but anyway, they're dope. They're well done. They fit perfectly. Their articulation works really well. They hold all their weapons perfectly. There's nothing is slack, nothing doesn't fit. Everything is where it's supposed to be, and it's all I was asking for from the Joes. And unlike some of the past earlier Joytoy offerings, none of the parts on these guys fall off. You know what I mean? Like, I opened the package, everything was on the way it's supposed to be. Nothing broke, no pockets, no clips, no nothing fell off. So these guys are a win, you know. The QC is up there. The basic quality of the figures is up there. It's just fun to play with them and fun to pose them, and you know, they look good from all angles. So I don't have really anything negative to say about this set. They're worth it. If you get a chance to get them, and you can get them at under $100, get them. I think even for $100, you know, just consider it 20 a piece, considering that most Joytoy releases are at least 30. Just chalk it up to them being 20 a piece, and you know, and go from there. $100, it's worth it. You know, you get so much more in this pack than what you would get with any Joe release. You know, no matter how many accessories they pack in a Joe package, the Joe package still doesn't have the level of quality, the level of paint, the accessories, the replacement parts, the extra hands, all that stuff. They just don't have all that. So you get so much more here for what you're paying than you ever got with any Joe release, both retail and figure subscription service. And you know, this is coming from a Joe fan. You know, I've always hated gimmicks, so when they started charging you more but giving you, you know, less figure, you know, less new sculpted pieces, less new accessories, and then they were using cheap ass fluorescent colored plastic, and you know what I mean, they weren't even painting the figures very much. And I know people are going to be like, the process is limited, but then why were you so willing to pay more? You know, doesn't make sense. But then when you see this, it's like, I see why I pay more. You know, the accessories make sense, all the vests fit. There's no issues, you don't have the vest popping off at one side or another. You have replacement parts for parts, you know, that if they break. You have hands that work with all the weapons. They can hold all their weapons. They have no problem shouldering the rifles. The measurements for the rifles versus the bodies of these actual figures, they match. You know what I mean? So I can actually do what I need to do. And that's essentially all you can ask for from your military action figures. Everything should work so that you get the full experience. And that's what they've done here. So this is another S-Class effort from Joytoy. Both the City Police and the Crossfire SWAT team member. Pick them up if you see them. They're worth it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this has been my review of the Joytoy City Police, and I threw in the Crossfire SWAT just because, you know, police related, you know. And yeah, it was fun to look at these guys. I'm glad I got a chance to sit down and review them. And yeah, as always, keep an eye out for more reviews. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And I will catch you on the next review. Peace outside.